Hey friends, before you go on that green card, things are starting to get really interesting with U.S. immigration. Can Donald Trump give you a green card? Hey guys, before you file for your spouse, Hey guys, welcome to today's live news session. I'm Latoya McBean Pompey, an immigration lawyer in New York, working with clients nationwide at McBean Law, where we believe that freedom is now, freedom now. So come on and join today's live session. We're going to talk about this week's immigration news, the top 3 news. If you have not yet, friends, subscribe to our newsletter to get our top 7 news on Friday afternoons. Subscribe today at McBeanlaw.com/subscribe. Welcome in, come on in, type in freedom now and say hello and say where you're watching from. It's good to be with you guys today. I hope you had a wonderful week. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Good to see you. Annie, thank you for watching from Seattle. Carolyn, Sophia, thank you. Antonio, thank you. At McBean Law, guys, we've been talking about freedom now since last year, okay? Before freedom became popular just in the past few weeks, all right? So we're talking immigration freedom. If you need to work with an immigration attorney on your immigration case, certainly reach out to us. We'd be happy to speak with you. Our phone number is 888-462-4006, or just go to McBeanlaw.com and fill out our form and we'll contact you. All right, excellent. So let's get into some immigration news today, guys. The first news certainly has to do with the parole in place, keeping families together, PIP as I've been calling it, or PIP as other lawyers traditionally call it. Let's talk about what the latest is. If you're out there and you've applied for parole in place for spouses of U.S. citizens, of course you're tracking this information because you have a lot invested in this process, and so same with us and our clients. So we're tracking this, and the latest, friend, with this is that the judge in Texas, who was appointed by former President Trump, has recently issued an extension on the administrative stay. So the new end date for this administrative stay is September 23rd. And even before that, on September 18th, they're going to have a hearing. And during the time of the hearing, the parties on both side of the litigation will be able to offer a lot of motions pertaining to a lot of different technical issues, and the court will take up those motions on that date, and that's September 18th for that hearing. But the new end date for the administrative stay is September 23rd. Like we've been talking about, friends, this administrative stay was likely to be renewed anyway or extended anyway because the issues are complex and technical that the court is considering at this time. Now, this Keeping Families Together program is targeting about 500,000 immigrants and their children. Widows and widowers are also included in this if they're eligible for it. And during this process, they're able to obtain parole and then be eligible to apply for adjustment of status and get the green card here in the United States, rather than having to leave the country and be interviewed at a U.S. embassy abroad. One thing to note about this, and I'll just pause for a second, one thing to note, and we covered it tonight in our immigration news summary that was emailed to you guys, our top 7 news. One thing to note is that the judge has a history, okay, of being anti-immigrant, so to speak, and I'm just going to say it that way. He was part of the Attorney General's office in Texas before he became a judge, and during his time there, he was challenging DACA and other legislation, and also the Trump travel bans. Okay, if you guys remember the travel bans that the Trump administration had at the time of the Trump years, he was back in the Trump travel bans and some other initiatives. But I just want to caution you in not coming to or making any conclusions quite yet or too soon as to how he's going to rule regarding parole in place, but you should know that he does have a very conservative history and a history of litigating against these types of government programs, DACA, and other things. So read our news tonight. You'll see the article that talks very specifically about his history as an attorney in Texas. All right, so now let's jump on to the second issue. The second issue, oh, by the way, with the administrative stay, you will still be able to submit your application to the government, and you will still be issued your biometric notices. However, they will not make a decision on your application while this administrative stay is still in place. For those of you who had gotten an approval of your parole in place application, the form I-131F, you can now take the next step. And for some of you, the next step might very well be applying for a work permit. For others, they could just go right in and start adjustment of status, that process. For those of you in immigration court proceedings, so to speak, or you have a removal order, you cannot jump into adjustment of status quite yet. You'll need to take some additional steps regarding your removal case before you're able to proceed with adjustment of status. Speak with your lawyer about it, or you may contact us so that we could assist you with the removal next steps. Now let's jump back into the second big news, and it has to do with the Biden administration, friends. The fact that they're really playing tough now with immigration and border enforcement. Here, the Biden administration is trying to keep their asylum policies in place. They're going to make it harder to lift those policies. So the Biden administration is considering changes to its asylum restrictions that it introduced in June, which largely shut down access to asylum for migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally. These potential challenges would make it harder to lift the restrictions, requiring illegal border crossings to stay below 1,500 per day for 28 days instead of the current 7 days to deactivate the policy. Additionally, this new calculation would include unaccompanied migrant children. So they're really trying to keep these measures in place and make it harder to lift the measures. The restrictions that they have put in place so far have led to a significant drop in unauthorized crossings, with July seeing a 4-year low. While the administration has faced legal challenges, notably from the ACLU, for the restrictive asylum policies, it has paired them with programs allowing for legal entry for tens of thousands of migrants. And these changes certainly signal a change for the Biden administration, who had initially promised that they were going to be more liberal, of course, with immigration. And of course, that doesn't work right now. The idea of being liberal with immigration is a bad thing, politically speaking, particularly after the country has already experienced the flood of migrants into the country under the Biden years. And so now Kamala Harris is continuing to talk tough on immigration while also trying to balance things out with her rhetoric around having maybe a comprehensive immigration reform plan if she becomes president. So she's still talking about reform that's needed on the congressional side of things, while also trying to keep things tight, so to speak, at the border, or more restrictive at the border. It's a balancing act, and of course, Trump is talking about more aggressive things, tougher measures. So that's what's going on right now. Biden administration is trying to really crack down on the border issues, problems. Thirdly, guys, this is the next issue, has to do with the fact that Catholic priests, religious ministers, they're suing the government because they're facing deportation. And that's a huge issue right now. Catholic diocese sues U.S. government because they're worried that some of their foreign-born priests might be forced to leave the United States. Religious organizations, including the Catholic Diocese of Paterson, New Jersey, are suing U.S. immigration agencies over changes in green card processing for religious workers, which could force thousands of foreign-born clergy to leave the United States. The lawsuit argues that the delays that are happening with helping these priests get their green card, these delays will disrupt religious services and disrupt the lives of priests as well as parishioners. So the issue, guys, is this, that a lot of these priests were looking to transition from the temporary R1 visa to permanent residency, a green card, under the EB4 category. However, a procedural change in March 2023 made the backlog even worse in that category because it added neglected minors from Central America to this same green card queue, which created a backlog of over 3.5 years. And this situation is pretty bad because the R1 doesn't extend that long. And so what happens is that they at some point, these priests will, like many other people, right, would experience a break in their status. They would no longer have a lawful status in the United States, which would make them eligible for the green card through adjustment of status. So in order to preserve their immigration record or history and still keep everything good or in place so that they could get a green card, some of them will have to leave the United States at the end of their visa term. And so that's the problem that they're facing. And so they've sued the government because this is going to be disruptive not only for them, but for parishioners. And from what I understand, I'm not Catholic, but from what I understand, the Catholic Church in America is already suffering from a major shortfall, as far as priests are concerned. So this is a very significant problem for these religious ministers. We covered, friends, more news in our top 7 immigration news summary that went out to you guys at 6 o'clock today or earlier today. So check your email for more information. I'll be live again before you guys on Monday at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern for the Q&A session. So join me on Monday at 1 o'clock where I will be answering your immigration questions. I might have time this weekend to do some social media live sessions. And if so, it will be on TikTok, Facebook, maybe Instagram. So follow me on those forums. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It was a long week, so I'm getting out of here. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.